Hello ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is a good few days later now, and the second-hand engine that I bought for my bike has arrived. As you know by either the video you're watching, or maybe I'll put it in a second video, this is the engine, going to be an engine removal and installation, because if you've watched the other segment of the video, that you found out that the engine was knackered in my bike there. So that engine needs taking out and this one needs putting in. And so it arrived this morning, and I'm just having a good look around it really. I'm checking all the exhaust studs, they all look really good, which is a good sign. And what I've done is I've just pulled all the spark plugs out and just inspected them, make sure they're the correct ones, and to be honest, they look really good. They look like they've only been in there not that long, so that's a good sign that this engine's actually been looked after in such a servicing and that. And so I've took the spark plugs out, I've took the timing cap off, and I've just made sure that I could turn the engine over by hand, just for my own peace of mind, to make sure it isn't seized up or anything like that. Because what you don't want to do is bolt this into the motorbike and the engine be knackered, because you'd have to do this whole job all over again. So I just tend to give a good look around, good inspection, see what you can find out about the engine, because this is obviously a second-hand one, and before you put it in, sort of thing, in case you need to send it back or whatever. But this has got, I've got 30 days warranty with this, so I'd be surprised if I found anything seriously wrong with it, because you could just send it back. So, but I just, for my own peace of mind, I thought I'd check everything out. So yeah, it's all looking good. I'm going to put the spark plugs back in now and torque them up. By the way, they torque up to 12 Newton meters. And just going to put the timing cap back on, and yeah, and start taking the engine out of the bike, which is there. So anyway, I'm just going to take you guys along with me, and hope you enjoy the video. I'll see you in a minute. Right, so what have I done? I've literally just got the bike on a paddock stand. I've just took the bolt out that holds the choke knob on. It's quite tight actually, I had to work it back and forth, so I've got that out of the way. I've also undone the gear shifter pinch bolt. I've just undone that, so that I'll probably just have to tap that off. But what I'm going to focus on now is getting the chain off the spline there. So this was, fortunately, someone's done this properly, so they've actually copper slipped it all up, and I whizzed this bolt off with an air gun. That's how I got it off. You can put it in gear and hold the rear brake and crack it off that way, but if it's very tight, be careful doing that, because you don't want to snap the bolt off inside the gearbox there. And now this sprocket is going to want to come off, but first I have to loosen the chain. So I'm going to crack the bolt off that holds the rear wheel on, and I'm just going to crack off the adjusters for the chain and move the front wheel forward, and then allow me to get the front sprocket off. Anyway, we'll go and do that now. So what I've done is, here I've cracked off the big nut for the shaft that holds the rear wheel on. That's a 27mm, use just a 1/2 inch ratchet, crack that off. These are 12 and 14mm, so your locking nut's 12mm and your actual adjusting nut is 14mm. So you just wind them back, wind it back like so. So now they're all wound back, I can then just tap the rear wheel with a rubber mallet. You can see there the chain's gone all slack now, and that should allow me to pull off this front sprocket. I need to just move it forward a little bit more. Oh, there we go. With one hand, so the front sprocket can come out, and I can now move the chain out the way like so. Now the chain's out of the way, I can then focus on getting all the multi-plugs disconnected underneath this boot here. There's loads of little multi-plugs under there, and that connects the wiring harness, the engine harness, wiring harness to the main loom. I'm now going to disconnect all that. Right, so all the engine wiring harness is disconnected. They're all, to me, they look like they're all colour coded, and they're just different size plugs, so you can just go for it and start disconnecting stuff, and it'll all make sense when you go put it back together. Like green goes to green, blue to blue, and then the others are just completely different sizes. So confident enough to say that you can just go for it and disconnect everything. So now that's disconnected, what else was I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and now get this shifter off of here, and then once I've got that off, I'm going to just disconnect these two hoses that go to the water pump here, and then because these go round, they're disconnected on the other end, but I'm just going to get them out of the way because this is water pump's attached to the engine and this is coming out. So pinch bolt out, hoses off. Right, so I've got the gear shifter out of the way. It turned out I just had to undo this bolt in the end and the pinch bolt, and the whole thing sort of just come off as a unit. I did mark it on the old engine just to give me a reference point where to put this spline on the new engine when I reinstall it. I removed this pipe here, and this pipe that went to this top section you don't have to remove, and I'll show you why. Because it's all a part of the same engine. You can see it connects there, runs down, and connects to the top of the water pump anyway. So that one can really stay there, to be honest. You don't have to touch that. So now all the, and all the multi-plugs are disconnected like I showed you earlier. The next thing, I'm going to remove the clutch cable. So that's just going to be just the two, these probably look like they're 12 mils. Just crack them off, give you some slack, and then you'll be able to just take this end out of the top of the clutch lever here. So as that's out of the way, I believe we're pretty much ready to start actually unbolting all the engine mounts. One at the top here, one at the bottom, and the two side ones. And I believe I'll have to get a trolley jack under here to support the weight. And just be careful when I'm lowering it down, make sure I haven't got anything else connected, but pretty much there. Obviously all of this gubbins, all the carburetors and all that have to come out, but I showed you that in the previous segment. So anyway, I'm going to get the clutch cable off now. Alright, so I've started to crack off the engine mounts. I've got this top one out there. It's just a nut on this side, a spacer, and then this whole threaded bar comes out. I'll show you if this one's got one. Yeah, so it looks like this from inside the frame. So you've got a spacer here. So I've got the nut off and slid that one out. Now there's one exactly one at the bottom here as well, like so. And this one's now got the weight on it because I took the top one out. So what I've done is I've just supported the bottom of the engine with a plank of wood and a trolley jack. And I'm going to try and get this one out. So I'll just probably just have to tap that out now and pull it out. And then hopefully just get these two side ones off. And fingers crossed, engine just comes out with ease. So really we're pretty much there. I'm just going to get this one out now, the bottom one rather. Right, so both the top and bottom engine mounts are all out. See there, top one. Remove these side ones here. It's just a nut and bolt with a spacer in the middle. Spacer goes on the outside, and now the whole engine is loose and ready to come out. So obviously got it supported with a trolley jack and a block of wood under there, just resting on the sump. Hopefully I'll let it down now and just keep an eye on everything whilst letting it down, making sure I've got no guitar strings. It's really wires that's still attached or something like that, but we're looking good. So I'm definitely gonna need two hands for this, so I can't film the actual removal, but you get the idea. It's loose. Alright, so just a quick update before I actually grab hold of the engine and manhandle it out here. I've just made sure that all the wiring loom's definitely disconnected. I forgot to mention that this terminal has to be removed from the starter relay around here. Just one little small Allen bolt that goes on there. And then once that's all removed, the engine's now literally ready to just sort of grab hold with two hands and try and slide it out. I've cable tied the carburetors up here just to stop any damage, so I don't get caught on any hoses and rip anything or break anything on the way out, and especially when getting the engine or the new engine in. So I recommend just cable tying the carburetors out of the way, and then you should be good to go just to rip it on out of here. I recommend two people on this, but I don't have anyone here to hand, so I'm just going to have to be careful with pulling it out. So the jack's fully released now. The engine's literally ready to come out. Right, so the engine's out. It wasn't the easiest on my own, but you know, you have to move it around and all the trolley jack and do what you have to do to get it out of there. So what I'm going to do now is just drag this engine out of the way, start unwrapping that from the pallet, and then get it on in here. So probably going to be a little bit harder than it was getting the old one out, but how hard can it be? What's that there? Oh, it's got a little joiner there. Yeah, so it's out. By the way, I drained the oil off on this as well, because I did do an oil change quite recently. I've done a video on it, so I thought you might as well reuse it. It wasn't that bad. There was no coolant that mixed with the oil at all, so couldn't get away with reusing the old oil. Coolant I drained as well, but obviously there's still some left in the block, so be careful if you're doing this on a nice patio. You're going to ruin it because you're going to get coolant and potentially oil spilling out if you've got the mixture between the both. But anyway, so let's crack on and start getting this new engine in the frame. Right, so the new engine's in. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty tricky to do on my own. If I was to do that again, I'd definitely get someone else, just as an extra pair of hands. Yeah, it's just because of the weight of it really on your own, and you're trying to get it in place and then lift it back up, but it was just, yeah, it was a bit tricky. Certainly couldn't film me doing it. I need to get a tripod really, but it's in, and I've put back in the engine like mounting bolts, and they all torque up. So your front hanger ones torque up to 54 Newton meters left and right, and your two at the back torque up to 54 Newton meters also. So air reeling tightened up. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I might go and put the chain. Actually, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug all the ancillaries in actually. So I'm going to plug all of the wiring loom back into here. I'm going to do that, and then I'll get the chain back on. Right, so I've plugged in all the multi-plugs there. What else have I done? I've just put on this coolant hose down to the water pump there. I've put on the front sprocket and torqued up the the bolt rather, to 54 Newton meters. And I put on the gear linkage there and torqued that up to 20 Newton meters. I'm just going by the Honda Hornet service manual, by the way. What else am I going to do? Right, I'm going to adjust, or the chain's all back on obviously, so I'm just going to adjust the wheel and then torque up the spindle nut which holds the rear wheel on. I'll let you know what torque that is. I need to just refer to the manual for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the clutch cable back into place and just adjust it to how many threads I was left with beforehand. I think I had about 5 threads sticking out this end, so I'm just going to do the same and then do final adjustments when the engine's running. And yeah, so I can't finish it today because I need I've ordered some new intake rubbers because my one's all cracked. But I'm just going to get everything back into place the best I can for when I can just put the carbs and the airbox and all that stuff back in. Oh, and I will be putting the exhaust back on as well. Right, so the rear axle nuts all back in, torques up to 88 Newton meters. The chain's adjusted. I've done like sort of a light adjustment, but I'm pretty sure that'd be good by the time you've got some weight on the rear wheel. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the clutch cable back on. Sort of got it back on partially, and it does actually route between these two ports, between cylinder 3 and 4. So, and that looked a bit odd for me. That just looked odd, but I've checked the cable routing and that's apparently where it goes. So once I've done that, I might tackle getting the exhaust headers back on. So anyway, I'm just going to get this back on and adjusted. Just to give you an update, when I was saying about the clutch cable ran between cylinder 2 and 3, that's what I can sort of make out from the service manual, but mine's not going to do that, so I'm going to have to go between 2 and 3. Sorry, the service manual says to go, but this side of the inlet rubbers between 3 and 4, but mine's it's just too much bend on it, and even if I go above that hose, it just don't look right. And I've watched the video back to how it came apart, and it was actually going like that, so I'm just going to keep it like that. Right, so clutch cable's all back on. What else have I done? I've rerouted, as I said earlier, the clutch cable, so I'm just putting it in exactly the same way it came off. I've just plugged in a few more bits, so I've put the spade connector, which I took off, which goes to the starter motor, back on. Plugged in the temperature sensor for the thermostat housing. What else have I done? I've done a couple of other bits. I'll just put the cover on there. Ow, that's it. I put all the ignition coils back in. I also put the crankcase ventilation hoses back on the top of the cam cover, and all the ignition coils back in, and plugged them all in. And I've just plugged all that in also. So now the next step is to be putting on the exhaust headers. Obviously reused new washers. I've just put the new, the gaskets in there. I've just put a little blob of grease in there just to hold all the gaskets in place. And I've cleaned up the exhaust headers. I mean, I've done the best I can. To be honest, they could do with new ones, but I'm just going to reuse them. And I'm just going to now bolt this to the actual cylinder head now. And some of the studs did come out. So, I mean, the nut and the stud come off together, but there's only 2 out of the 6 there, so. Also not the 6, how many are there? I can't bother to count, but yeah, there's only 2 studs that actually came out, so I'm just going to get this on there now. Alright, so it's the next day. The exhaust headers are all on, and all the exhaust, the rest of it's all bolted up upstream. So I did have a bit of a disaster yesterday when torquing down the cylinder head, the stud nuts rather. One of them did snap, but I've managed, fortunately, it left enough hanging out so I could get in there, and I banged a Torx bit on the end of it and managed to unscrew it. And then I had obviously some spare ones from the engine, the old engine. So obviously it took longer than I anticipated, but it is what it is, these things happen. But anyway, so the exhaust headers are on. The tightening sequence, by the way, you've got 6 nuts. And you tighten the middle one first, and then you go to the right hand side one down there, and then go to this one. So 1, 2, 3, and then you go tighten the middle one again, so number 4 in a way, and it's 20 Newton meters. I just kept going around with my torque wrench, tightening it up in the sequence I just told you, and until that it just wouldn't compress the copper gaskets anymore, and that's how I done it. So obviously the one clamp does 2 headers, and there's 3 nuts on each side. So you do that, you do exactly the same on the other side. So just tighten it down till it compress the washer, and hopefully when I start the engine up there won't be no leaks. So yeah, exhaust is all on. I can't progress it anymore because I'm waiting for new intake rubbers to turn up. My ones are all getting like brittle and cracked. I just didn't want to risk an air leak. So I just thought I'd just get some other ones. So it is what it is now. I can't really progress it anymore until they turn up. I believe they turn up tomorrow. I'm back to work this week, so I'll try and get on it as soon as possible, really, when they turn up. And yeah. Oh, and another thing I've done, I transferred the oil filter from the old engine to this one. I was just saying this, I've done an oil change video not that long ago, so pretty much a brand new oil filter, so I just transferred that over. Drain the oil in the engine, put the oil filter on, and I still need to fill it up with oil. So obviously if you've got an engine that's completely blown up and there's going to be metal fragments all in the engine, obviously you can't transfer the oil filter over, but mine was my oil was clean, and it was nothing to do with a catastrophic failure like that. It was just, you see the head gasket and the cylinder bores were all pitted as well, but that's happened ages ago. It's fine to change the oil filter over. But yeah, anyway, so that's it, gents. When the intake rubbers turn up, I'll get back on it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed so far. I'll see you on the next one. What's happening, gents? So back again, it's a couple of days later, and my inlet rubbers have turned up. Here they are. They're in way better condition than my old ones. Still got the restrictor washers in them, so I'm just going to remove them. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get them bolted onto here, and then I'm going to get the carburetors bolted back on the inlet rubbers, and then I can go about getting the airbox back on. So, and then start sorting out something like put the control unit and all that back into place. So yeah, it's just I'm just going to throw it back together now and get some oil in it, get the radiator on, and then see how far I can get really, because I've got work not that long. So got night shift to do. I'm going to do a little bit of this and see what we can do. Anyway, I'll be back in a sec once the inlet rubbers are on. Right, I've progressed it quite far now. I've got the inlet rubbers on. They were quite tricky to actually get onto the cylinder head, but I used just a little bit of grease around it and managed to get it on. Just to let you know, you've got to line up this here with the cylinder head here. That's when you know that the actual rubber's in line correctly. Once that's in, you just tighten up your Jubilee clips. Next, I then went to put the carburetors on. They were really hard to get on these rubbers. So what I done was I sort of slotted one side in, again using some grease on the rubber end, slotted one side in and tightened up one side, and then pushed the other side on. So I pushed this side on, tightened there, and then managed to push this side on around the back here, and it was just so tight getting in there, but it's all in there now. And I've just slid the airbox in as well, and I've just got to tighten up these Jubilee clips here. So that's as far as I've got really. It took me quite a while just to get the carburetors on the inlet rubbers. It was a bloody nightmare, but it's all in now. They're all tightened up. Again, you want to make sure that the carburetor sits. There's a notch there, if you can see. I'll try and focus. There's a notch on the carburetor, and that sits in the little cutout of the inlet rubber. That's when you know it's all the way home. You can see there, just past there, the little notch. And you make sure that it's all home all the way around the back end as well, or the bottom end as well. And then make sure that, or then you know rather, that the carburetor is sitting as far in the inlet rubber as it can. And then, yeah, airbox just slips on. That was a lot easier to slip on. So now I'm just going to tighten these up. I'm going to get the control unit all plugged back on, and then just start plumbing stuff in really. I mean, there's just hoses that, I can't remember where that really goes, but it all makes sense when you start putting things back together. Anyway, I'm going to crack on, and I'll let you know what I've got up to in a minute. What's happening, gents? So it's the next day now, and I did actually get it started last night. I just plugged in the control unit. There was a few other hoses to connect, but I mean, it's just reversal of disassembly. So I put the tank on, I got the radiator on. Actually, so I got the control unit plugged in first. I put the radiator on. That's just held on by 2 bolts, one at the top there and one on the other right hand side. It sits on a post around the side there. Very easy to put back on. Just 2 hoses, one at the bottom, one around the other side of the thermostat housing. Just 2 Jubilees, and then just plugged in my fan. And once that was on, I then just put the tank on loosely. I just slid it on, and then just plugged in, or put on my hoses underneath. There's 2 under there, one there, and the 2 round the side here underneath. So once they're on, I then managed to start it. It did run well, but I'm gonna, because it was pitch black by the time I was running it up, I'm just gonna get the tank on properly this time, and then I'm gonna bolt it down fully, get the seat on. I'm going to get the 2 side covers on, and then I'm going to top the coolant off and check the oil again, and then yeah, start it up again and see how we're looking. Anyway, when I get all this back on, I'll show you it running. Right, so put the seat back on, the 2 little side covers. I've topped off the oil. I just needed to add another 300 ml, so it's 3.8 litres in total I put in. Coolant, I just fill it up until I bleed the system out and there's no more air bubbles, and you know, there is information somewhere how much to actually put in, but if you fill it up to the max, it's fine. Obviously you want to make this, my header tank's a little bit still over full, but I can sort that out later. Yeah, anyway, so I've got the ignition on. I'm going to just show you guys now. This is the first cold start. Obviously I started it last night, but I haven't done a cold start on it yet, so let's see how she starts up. Chokes on. Nice. storm yesterday, but it's just literally really badly proper poured down, so I might just go out for a little test ride to make sure she's all running, or you know, gearbox is all alright and that, but so far so much I'm pleased. Sounds like there's a little tiny leak from the headers. Hopefully I can just get up there and hit one of them bolts up, secure that, just slightly hear it, so I'm going to get it hot and then just nip up the actual header bolts. Hopefully that'll stop that. Anyway, turn it off so you can hear me. But anyway, gents, hope you enjoyed the video, or the series of videos, in terms of engine disassembly and then turned out to be engine replacement. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Right, just to give you a little update, I've just put about 20 miles on it and she's running sweet. So I'm really pleased the way it all turned out. Yeah, so onwards to summer. Anyway, thought I'd just let you know that it's all running good. Oh, and I nipped up the header bolts just a tiny little bit and it stopped that leak. So the exhaust leak in the header, so that's all that needed, was just a little bit more compression on the copper gasket there. So that's all sorted now. Anyway, time to enjoy the ride in the future. See you on the next one.